doing? It's Jim. It's Friday, and today's video is going to be the start of a little series called In Defense of Indie. Now, people have asked me so many times in the comments of these videos on my channel, what were you doing, Jim? What have you been listening to? Where were you? And I guess in the 90s and going forwards, and maybe until about 10 or 15 years ago, the main thrust of music that I was listening to is what is sort of generically termed to as indie. Now, really, that doesn't really tell you anything at all, does it? Because indie really, technically, is a business model. It's a way of making and releasing music without the shackles and constraints of a record label. So, for all intents and purposes, Marillion is an indie band. But that's not really what you think of when you're talking about indie. So indie as a genre, I know it doesn't exist, but it kind of, people know what you mean when you're saying indie music. And there is some very, very bad indie music, which I think we all know. And that is kind of what you think of when you think of indie music. But there's also some very, very, very good indie music. And I want to have a little series where I showcase what I think is excellent music from the genre. I don't know how else to describe it. It's an alternative rock scene. You could trace it back, if you did a family tree, you could trace it back to Beatles and Rolling Stones, as opposed to tracing it back to King Crimson and the Kinks and to the Moody Blues. So there's two different sort of, well, there are many different paths, but although saying that, Moody Blues followed on from the Beatles, so I suppose everything does go back to the Beatles in one way or another. There is some genuinely, I think, excellent music out there, which comes under the banner of indie. Now, I'm going to lose some of you here. I know it. I know you're going to sort of switch off and say, "Oh, I'll come back. I'll come back another time, Jim." I say, that's fine. But I really think that there is a wealth of music that a lot of people ignore. In the same way that people do the other way, from going to prog and to the avant-garde and to fusion and stuff. It's I don't want to know that. The other people say, oh, indie. Ooh. Well, guess what? You can listen to both and enjoy both. And here we're going to do some. So today's video is by a band called Spiritualized. And they are awesome. So Spiritualized come from Rugby. Not the game, but the town, which is in the East Midlands, very close to where I am now. It's just up the road, up the M1, maybe about 25 or 30 miles away. And they've been going since the 90s. They were formed after the breakup of Spaceman 3, which was another space rocky indie band. So what we're going to listen to today is a track called Come Together, and this is recorded live at a concert they did for NPR. Now, I'm not sure what that is. It's a internet YouTube channel, and they had a concert which they filmed and have shared bits of it onto their channel. So I've seen this track loads of times in different places, and in fact, one of the very, very first videos I ever made for my channel 5 years ago was this very, very track, a slightly different version. It was a live one somewhere else, but I uploaded it and then decided, for I don't know why, but I never made it live. So it's been sitting on my channel for 5 years, unviewed by anybody. I might release it in due course, but it's old and it looks decidedly old school Jim, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. I'm reading this off the NPR video, the introduction underneath it, and it's kind of just sums it up. They've summed it up much more succinctly and better than I possibly could have done. So this is what they say about this. Rock and roll is most often the stuff of youth and vitality, of desire, of frustration, of love and lust, and other ephemeral concerns. Spiritualized singer Jason Pierce, also known as Jay Spaceman, knows his way around music's role in such hedonistic pursuits, but his work also reflects an acute understanding of mortality, loss, and the desire to lean on a force greater than oneself. Pierce almost died twice in the last 7 years, once from double pneumonia and once from degenerative liver disease, which necessitated chemotherapy. He recorded Spiritualized remarkable new record, Sweet Heart, Sweet Light, while recovering from the latter, and its songs don't hesitate to leer into the abyss. Even as they swagger and seethe, they document a frail and flawed man's circuitous journey through self-inflicted agonies and righteous redemption, and back around to agony. God, this is well written, isn't it? That said, a spiritualized concert is the stuff of big-hearted, spaced-out, bliss-packed joy and celebration. Sweet Heart, Sweet Light overtly pursues salvation through divine intervention. It doesn't take a careful parsing of lyrics to figure that out, so it's appropriate that Spiritualized in concert can convey the spirit of a revival show. There we go. So this is truly, truly awesome rock and roll, sort of indie rock and roll. There's everything there. There's even a gospel choir. Well, I hope there is on this. There certainly has been on other ones. So it's just fab. So it's been a while since we had a video on here. Anyway, 7, nearly 8 minutes of music. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boop. Oh, it's a while since I've heard this. It's so simple. It's just the same little riff repeating over and over and over and over again. That is brilliant. It's just absolutely blissed out, isn't it? It's just glorious. Really hypnotic. There is two versions I've seen of this, where they've actually got a big gospel choir singing with them, which kind of adds even more to this. Hope none of you have epilepsy. I wish the bass was a little bit higher on this in the mix. What a musical moment, eh? Shambolically falls apart at the end. Wow. Oh, man alive, it's such a cool track. There we have it. There we have it. So there we go. Spiritualized live at something called the 9:30 Club, Washington, D.C., May the 10th, 2012, 11 years ago. There we go. What do you reckon? I really like that. It's just goes to show that musical enjoyment can come from a whole multitude of different places, and if you close your ears to an entire genre, then you really are missing out. And there are so many people who are guilty is the wrong word, but are missing out because they will not embrace and listen to music from the early 1970s, for example, the progressive rock scene. yeah, more fool them. I say it because I mean, it is such a rich, wonderful area of music to hear. But equally, people who exclusively and only listen to that music and don't give the time of day to anything more modern or anything more slightly mainstream or slightly more indie is also missing out, because there are incredible pearls amongst all the... Is that a term? A pearl amongst the rough? A diamond in the rough, isn't it? Diamonds in the rough. I mean, it could have been a pearl, you don't know. But I mean, it may not be for you. That's fine. Absolutely may not be. But this music will move and have meaning to people in such a strong connective way, in the same way that Awaken might do for some people, and that Supper's Ready might do. You know, it's there is this human connection to music, and when you hear something for the first time and the lyrics mean something, or the energy means something, or the music moves you in a way, you can't explain that. You can't... It's a magic. It is a kind of magic, as Queen sang once, that it has this absolutely intoxicating and inescapable hold over you, and you can't explain it. And I don't want to explain it, but music does that, and it does it to me, and I'm sure it does it to you in different ways, and this is one of those tracks that does it. Anyway, there'll be more of these. Maybe Spiritualized, but there'll be plenty of other bands. I've got quite a lot that I listen to and have listened to, and I don't want to stop listening to. And I think that perhaps you in the audience may not have heard them. So I'm going to share in a little series some of that music going forward. I'll see you guys on the next video, whenever and whatever that is. And until then, this is Jim. Over and out.